So I wanted to do a little video here. I filled this car up with gas the other day, and then the next morning it stunk like refinery in my garage, and this has been leaking between this filler tube and this tank. This is soldered into the tank. There's a little crack in the solder right there, and I kept this stuff on it. Works pretty good to fix small gas leaks. And that's been on it for probably 10 or 15 years anyway, from the little, but the crack has worked out further and it's gotten larger there. And this is the seal all that I put I filled the tank up and it was leaking. This was all covered in gas and run down the tank and dripped down the floor. So I just took the seal all and this is kind of runny stuff, but I put it on my finger and smeared it all up and in there. And that stopped it from leaking, but this is just continuing to crack further and further, so eventually it's going to be all the way around, and I'm going to have to either take the tank out and re-solder it or braze it or replace the tank. And it's not that big of a deal to get the tank in and out of the car, so and they're not that expensive, so I just bought a new gas tank. So there we go, brand new gas tank. I didn't get a sending unit because the gauge in the car actually reads correct, reads pretty good. But I did order a new tank because $100 for a tank, and I'll just have the car's actually still got probably 7/8 of a tank of fuel in it. I've been driving it like every time I go out and run errands or do something. If it's not raining, I take it to try and burn the gas out of it. So I don't want to go get enough jerry cans to siphon a full tank of gas out of from the car. So I'll just drive it until it's down. It's not leaking with that seal all on it. So it might be a couple weeks at the rate I've been driving it, probably a couple weeks anyway, to where it has low enough gas to where I'll just drop tank out, put this tank in, and the filler neck on this car is behind the license plate. So we'll get this, and that's the vent, which just kind of loops around and ends right. I don't know if you can see the end of it there or not. So it's a hose that comes up to this tube. Tube goes around and just discharges there. That's the vent, and it's a clean tank on the inside. So I think I'll just solder this up and save it for an extra. Nothing wrong with it. I've dropped the tank and solder it and put it back in, but then, like I say, for the cost of a new tank. Let me open this box up and we'll take a look at it. So this is the underside of the tank. The top side. That's where the sending unit goes in. The filler neck and the vent looks like it has it's just a cap on the vent. I was going to say it looked like it had a piece of hose on it. It was just a cap probably to keep crud out of there. The vent in the tank, I think it comes back here. I think on the original tank that spout comes back here, and I think there's a baffle in here somewhere, but I don't think this one has it. We got the Bendalite. We'll have a gander. Let me get this thing up. Alright, I kind of stood it up on the end. So this one, the filler neck just comes into the tank. You can see there's like a brace around it, and it's welded to the top of the tank. I don't know if you can see all that or not in there. I'm trying to hold the things to where maybe it'll show up. And then the vent is right there. So that's where that ends, and then that goes down to where that hose connects on, just down in there. So there's the inside of the tank. So there's no baffle or anything. The Catalina, that's why the tank wasn't in it. It was completely open like this, and it was a lot easier to fill up. Didn't have to try and wait for air to purge, so maybe this will fill up quicker. You got to put the nozzle on slow on the car, otherwise it just kicks it off. So there we go. These are supposedly pressure tested in water twice, so If it leaks, I'll be pretty upset. And so the exterior is painted silver, the inside's bare steel, and the exterior, like I said, is silver. And I kind of don't like that, so I think I'll paint it a low gloss black. So I'll get that done in the next 2 or 3 days, and then, like I say, drive the car a bit. It keeps raining, and just don't get the chance to get it out. But if I get to drive it a bit and burn some of the gas out, I'll make a video of switching the fuel tank. So this is where the filler neck bolts to the body of the car. And that's where that vent that I showed you behind the license plate goes. So this is where that hose goes on that I showed you with the vent, and it goes up, and I showed you when I opened the license plate up where it runs to up in the filler neck. And then I undo the 2 tank straps, and then show you up here. I don't know if this shows up or not. It's kind of, I can't see where I'm pointing the camera. I can't really, I'm just doing this blindly. But the sending unit's up there on the back of the top, upper, more to the other side of that strap. Wire and a hose, and that's off. And then you're pretty much all ready to pull a tank and put the new one in. You see the underside of this car is actually pretty clean. That's all, well, the camera shadow is, sorry, camera and tire shadow from my light, but that's all like factory undercoating. That's the original body mount. This car is still pretty original. So, I'll just show me underneath a little bit there. I obviously repainted the body on it. I did that in 1982, I believe it was. I'll just do this video for my dad, seeing he's probably not going to come down and check this out. These are pretty cool. They're like little leaves on these. Lilies, Jack in the Pulpit's rose. That thing, it's doing okay. So it's peaking right now. These have had the ants on them. They chew this like sap off, and then the flowers open up. These are peonies. The bleeding hearts, they're really amazing this year. And the iris. It rained a little while ago. It's super humid right now. Humidity's got to be like 70–80%. So yeah, some nice, I like to garden, so I got marigolds along there, down to the hosta, switched to impatiens. Just kind of, again, this video is for my dad. He enjoys my mom was an avid gardener, and he enjoys the gardening. My dad likes to garden too. I think that's where I took after it. Grew up with both folks enjoying gardening. That's got a really neat color on the end. There's canna lilies, variegated canna lilies. A couple of them planted in there. They just are starting to pop. So one of them is, and the holly and hostas and more impatiens. This is spectacular this year. I made a little framework out of re-rod, just welded it up, and that's what that is growing on. And I also made this, my Virginia creeper got a fungus and died out, and this was originally like curtains that come down here. I went across there and hung down, kind of was like a natural curtain, but it's coming back. A lot of new growth on it here. In a couple of years this will be back to where you won't see through it. It just kind of makes this like a little hall and goes back to a little room, because you'd be walking this point just in front of these, or just the other side of these pillars is where the curtain of Virginia creeper will hang down. The phlox. That's hibiscus. They have huge, huge flowers. They're really neat. That's a bear's breech. It has that's one of my favorite flowers in the garden. It's just a, Google it. It's just a neat flower. It looks like a Chinese lantern. And so yeah, so then we've got some. I think I've shown this in the past, but well, the elephant ears are coming up. Got 3 elephant ears, some Chinese lanterns. Got to come up just in here. I mean, this is the first week of June, so things are just starting. The raspberries are nuts this year. This has all kinds of flower buds, a little like viney thing that grows on the fence, and flowers. That was a house plant, just decided to put it in there. It was just kind of looking good. So get some of the other stuff for my dad. Even have some yellow. Now I got brain freeze. Iris. That's pretty much all finished. We're just getting started. The azalea's long been done. Rhododendron, that's the azalea, rhododendron, and having a brain freeze again. It's right on the tip of my tongue. And the euonymus, corbels. They have a really neat little flower when they pop up there, long string of little bells, flower bells hanging down. So yeah, we're getting a lot of buds here. The gardens are looking good, Dad. And I don't know if you remember this last year or not, Dad. I did the same thing. This is going to go right down to the ground, completely hide the pot. These are those little feathery leafed with the little red flowers that I forget the name, that bloom during the day, and then the 4 o'clocks, which have the red flowers, will bloom at night. So this will have red. And the viney stuff will, and I welded this up out of re-rod too. And that stuff grows all the way to the top. You won't even see this re-rod in the end of the month. It'll be totally not visible with plant foliage. I was thinking of welding a 6-inch straight up with like a big steel ball bearing, like 3 or 4 inch diameter ball bearing on the top, or maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It would be all covered anyway in plants in no time. And this is an interesting, the way these start out like a pink, turn white and then go to green, but you can still see the pink in the stem until you get quite a ways back in, then it turns to like a wood. I guess I was in the sun. And the smoke tree, all the things getting ready to, there's a bee right there. A little pollen. Whole bunch of bees and stuff flying around the smoke tree. More roses on this rose bush and blossoms here. So we got flowers absolutely everywhere. The flowers this year have been the best they've been. I put a whirligig on that, but I take it off when it's raining, and then I just put a can on it so I don't get. I just use 1-inch pipe with 1-inch wooden oak dowel, and I drilled. Not all the wood comes down about here, but I only drilled for the whirligig nail to go there, so you know it wouldn't fall down, so it'll turn. There's the whirligig, so it just kind of can turn in there. That's just basically a nail that's been ground round, I guess, and through a little metal thing that's screwed to the bottom. This was I remember that in my grandfather's yard. My dad says he can remember it in his grandfather's yard, so that would be my great-grandfather. And we figure, just thinking about it, this thing's close to 100 years old. He was my great-grandfather when I was in his backyard. He lived at the corner of Oakland Avenue and Logan in Lansing, Michigan. And the house was raised because they widened Oakland Avenue from 2 little tree-covered lanes to 4 or 5 lanes one way. Saginaw goes the other way. Lansing is the state capital for Michigan. So anyway, yeah, this was in his backyard there, and the lilacs and part of his backyard is actually still there where this used to sit. So I just thought I'd show that too. Been family for, like I say, probably close to 100 years. So anyway, there you go, Dad. And if any of my other viewers were patiently stayed through and watched this part of the video and enjoyed it, well, thank you for watching too.